At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
Llévate más de lo que esperas todos los días con el nuevo McValue en McDonald's. Ahora puedes comprar uno y sumarle otro por $1. Así que cuando tu equipo favorito enfrente a sus rivales, enfrenta tus antojos con $5 Meal Deals. Y si estás corriendo para alcanzar el desayuno, corre a la para llevarte ofertas antes del cutoff. Tú decides, y con McValue, tu decisión siempre rinde más. Precios y participación pueden variar. BOGO $1 válido para un producto de igual o menor valor. Debe estar registrado en Rewards para ofertas en el app.
The views and opinions expressed by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the policies or positions of WABC Radio, its management, or its sponsors.
This is 77 WABC Newsroom Extra. Now, here's business expert Joe Connolly.
Jeff Chinman, the owner of Broadway Kitchens and Baths in Manhattan and New Jersey, told me customers are very worried about higher costs from tariffs. But then he mentioned one of their specialties, making small or closed-off kitchens seem larger. And I thought that might be of interest to some. Here he is.
Raise the cabinets a couple inches higher so you have a little bit more backsplash, and it just feels more roomy. That's one thing.
The second is about the appliances.
So I like to shrink the refrigerator to like 24 or 27 inches wide if possible, 30 inches maximum, and also the dishwasher.
And these changes create others.
You have a little more countertop space, and you get a little bit wider drawer. It's all about how many drawers you have.
He says glass cabinet doors and light-colored paint will also make it feel like you have more space. Joe Connolly, 77 WABC News.
Always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
And good evening, good morning, no matter where you are. I'm Steve Gates, here with the Dr. Sky Experience. We're on 77 WABC. Stay tuned for the next 2 hours with great guests and your concerns, questions, and comments at 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. And in this 2-hour show, we've jam-packed information not only in the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, but in our second hour, we return to some of those great themes about truth, justice, and the American way with stories of American exceptionalism, and I'm sure you'll love the many guests that we have. A special thanks to owner and operator John Katzimatidis and family, and from the executive staff, a thank you to Chad Lopez. But navigating this powerhouse starship, 77 WABC, I'd like to thank Tony and staff for making this sound as good as it should, ladies and gentlemen, on this early Saturday morning, if you're listening in other places, still Friday evening. We also find out that the Earth is raging. Mother Earth is raging on the opposite side of the Earth. An incredible and very sadly destructive 7.7 earthquake in Myanmar, collapsing buildings, and the death count continues. This is near the anniversary of the massive Alaskan earthquake you may never have heard about, a 9.2 on the Richter scale that occurred back in 1964 in Prince William Sound, Alaska. Simply, Mother Earth is raging along the Ring of Fire. And just in case you're concerned, right now we're talking about what's happening on the sun, our nearest star. A new X1 flare has just blasted off the sun, giving us even more opportunities for people in the northern and southern hemispheres to see the enigmatic northern and southern lights, and we'll keep you posted on that. But also, something else is happening for listeners that are in the area of, let's say, northeast Canada and in the New England states. Early on Saturday morning, the 29th, at the time of sunrise, the sun in various parts that we've talked about will rise already in a slight eclipse. But if you do happen to have clear skies, always remember, not just to keep your eyes to the skies, but to protect your eyes, indeed. As we continue here to move out and open our minds, ladies and gentlemen, about some of the most amazing things that go on in the night sky, from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, we actually come much closer to home. And our next guest is going to talk about something, a very informed guest indeed, about the mystery of the great drone sightings that you've seen, not only in the northeast part of the United States and many parts of the nation, but also these amazing objects, strange as they may seem. Are they friend or foe that are also being seen around the nation and around the world over many military bases? An article that our guest has written here, Douglas E. Cupo, who we'll introduce in a moment, is entitled Mass, Ubiquitous Enigmatic Drone and UAP Incursions. Sounds like a complicated subject, but our special guest, Douglas E. Cupo, has been an avid Virginia MUFON member, researcher, and lecturer since 2021. Doug takes an active part in briefing his local MUFON group on presentations he has attended, reports on scientific and technical papers, and significant UFO, UAP, and disclosure developments. A retired U.S. Navy captain, naval intelligence, and a former senior U.S. Defense Intelligence officer and industry senior systems engineer, Doug has 4 decades of experience in multi-domain intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance, ISR support to joint U.S. military planning operations and warfighting, with emphasis on space systems development, operations, engineering, and acquisition. And who better than Douglas E. Cupo could we get to discuss this subject? And ladies and gentlemen, also news reports still coming in to all news bureaus around the world of undersea UFOs traveling at great velocities. We say good morning to Douglas Cupo. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the Dr. Sky Experience. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate very much being on today with your listening audience.
Well, I appreciate you, sir, and I'm sure we'll be learning a lot here in this particular hour. And just to remind everybody, ladies and gentlemen, this show is all about you. And the contact number, get in early, is 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. Well, Doug, if you don't mind me calling you Doug, how'd you get started in this whole subject? I mean, I, for a long time, was very active in the UFO story, but this hour is not about me. It's about you. How did you get started?
Well, like most people in the 70s, 60s, and 70s and 80s, we were all interested in science fiction and what was going on not only on shows like Star Trek, but I started to become very interested in UFOs when we started to see big authors writing books on the phenomenon, like J. Allen Hynek, for example. Yes. He was very good in the area. Jacques Vallée is another one. And I became very interested in the investigations that were going on into this phenomenon, and started doing my own research and reading, and obviously when I became in the intelligence officer, I became more interested in the analytics of looking at these phenomenon and how they perform in the environment.
Describe to us, if you would, MUFON. I mean, a lot of people out there may be listening to this program for the first time and say, what the heck is it? Just describe the organization. I know you're telling us about some of the research you've been doing, which is fascinating, right, but a little bit on MUFON. What is the organization?
Sure. The Mutual UFO Network has been in operation as a public association of enthusiasts and investigators for the UFO phenomenon since 1969. And what they basically do is they have state directors that run field investigators who examine cases of UFO incidents within their states, and they report on them. They've been on the History Channel. They've been on Ancient Alien shows. They use the scientific method for ascertaining the different particulars about these phenomena.
Yes.
And more recently, they're taking on photographic interpretation tasks and using advanced technology and trying to look at some of these strange phenomena, like the UFOs in Iraq, for example. That were very
fascinating stuff, Douglas. That's fascinating. Yeah. But I want to just, zoom back here, the home base here for 77 WABC. far and wide heard, excuse me, all the way around here in the New York metro area, but all over the world, 173 countries, all 50 states. But centering this part of the conversation for all the people there in the New York metro area and those states that surround it, great sightings over this particular fall of strange objects in the sky. So let's begin there, because I'm looking at reports now. Now the new administration, the Trump administration, gives a very, quick, concise update. I know the press secretary talked about this and said there's really nothing to worry about. There's scientific research. We don't really have to know. But what kind of research? To describe some of this, because I want the people out there who have seen these things to give us a call, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-WABC, to make it even simpler to dial. Describe this whole thing, because I haven't seen any of these. I'm out here in Phoenix right now. I visited back there in the late fall. But this is really strange, what people are seeing. Describe some of this. It's really exciting and confusing.
Sure. From last year, in the November-December timeframe, we became inundated with this reporting on these UFOs, and they were calling them drone swarms.
Sure.
But what they had as a very unique facet to them was this co-observation of these orbs. In a lot of instances, and in particular, the mysterious drone sightings over New Jersey had a lot of these orbs sighted concurrent with these drones. And if I could go through some of the particulars on that.
If you would, yes, sir.
Sure. They began in the United States and started in New Jersey, but they spread to a number of states on the eastern seaboard, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire. They were in Pennsylvania. They were sighted in Virginia, and we're going to cover a little more on Virginia in a little bit. Mm-hmm. They were out as far as Ohio, and very importantly, they were at overseas U.S. military bases in Germany and the United Kingdom. So at that time, the FBI was getting involved with Homeland Security and the FAA, and there were meetings that were going on with congressional staffs and congressmen and senators to look at what was going on. And at that time, there were over 5,000 reported drone and UAP sightings. Now, this UAP term is a new term that's being used, unidentified aerial phenomenon. It's a new term for UFO by the military predominantly, but it's become more mainstay now within the public arena. And there were there was a lot of controversy when this was going on, because there were a lot of eyewitness reports that were saying they were conventional drones, but some of them were the size of SUVs. And while many had what they termed was conventional propulsion and blinking navigation lights, there were some that exhibited military-grade technology. And many
this
were...
is amazing.
Yes, many were...
No, this is amazing, Douglas, because, let's put it this way. We talked way back about the balloon, the alleged Chinese balloon. I think we know that, a spy balloon, as many call it. And nothing was done until the very end over South Carolina when it was shot down. And in case people didn't know this, you probably have more information on it. It was the first time that the F-22 actually engaged the target. Didn't have anything to do with the war, but it was the first time. Yep. But my point is this. How could any administration let something like that fly over? And now we see all these reports of people who are what? You don't have to have a PhD in the science of astronomy to identify something. You see something in the sky. And that's why, really, I'm interested to hear what the listeners have to say from some of the corroboration of some of the sightings that they've seen. And you don't have to have, like I said, we talk about on this program, open up your mind to learn about the wonders. Keep your eyes to the skies. And not everybody understands each named star in there, but they're seeing these things. My goodness, if I saw something, the size of an SUV flying over my house, I saw something as big as an SUV, right? And nobody can deny that. So this is very strange.
It is, absolutely. And some were flying much too low and hardly making any noise. And there are actual videos that I've seen, and maybe some of the audience members can comment on this, that there were these theories that were based on actual video evidence of craft transforming from drones into orbs, and vice versa.
That one really bothers me. When you see these orbs, as you're going to tell us more in detail here, this is just the strangest thing ever. I mean, this is not some amateur out there who's piloting a small drone. No. This is something, and that's why I'm surprised, at all these reports that keep coming in here. We still do not have, a definitive answer as to what this is. I mean, we're not stupid out there. People, when they hear, well, there's nothing to worry about, the Biden administration says. And now we're also looking at the current administration, not to knock anybody in particular. But, if there's nothing to report, what research were they doing if you're just telling us it was research? Well, what's going on here?
Exactly. We haven't really gotten a solid answer on it. And the FBI was actually sending teams to New Jersey that were skilled in observation and reporting and photographic techniques. They were using special cameras, so they didn't report what they came up with. That's amazing. As I go through some of these cases, I'm going to talk about some of these cases that have been going on where this phenomenon is truly anomalous and unexplained. We don't have the answers, but there clearly is a call to get more information. And you probably, the audience may be hearing that there's a UAP interest right now, again, on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, with a transparency task force, where they want to get this reporting by specialists from whistleblowers to mainstream government people to better understand what exactly is going on, because we didn't get all the answers from the New Jersey drone swarm.
Absolutely. And I just wonder when we'll ever be, we could go on to the subject some other time with you. I'd love to have you back to enlighten our audience on the whole conversation of why are we never being told or not being told about the actual existence of extraterrestrial life that's been recovered here, as many in the whistleblowers that testified in Congress, about a year and a half ago. Yeah. They state categorically that we do happen to have this, but what's the big secret out there, folks? I mean, what do people think here? 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. As we, of course, thank Tony, navigating this powerhouse starship, as we call it, 77 WABC. So give us a more, detailed explanation on some of these. I know we have limited time with this subject, and so many people, I'm sure, would love to jump in.
I have a lot I can discuss here. So what do we make of all this is what the big question is right now, right? There are, just as you pointed out, theories abound from whether there were foreign adversaries involved in this to secret government agency operations. I'm going to talk about that a little.
Please do.
And the evidence that is for or against it. And as you pointed out also, is there anything from a non-human intelligence standpoint that merits examination? And when we look at this phenomenon, it's categorized in a number of areas. One is size. These, as I pointed out a moment ago, the size of these drones, in many cases, were the size of small cars and SUVs. Literally, that it had people very anxious. They were calling in on radio shows all around.
And particularly this radio station, you bet. I mean, the powerhouse that it is. Obviously, so many people were seeing these, and where do you go? Either you go to the law enforcement to report it, but in the public square, here we go, this radio station, 77 WABC, as I've been listening, and I'm sure many people are, they've been fielding questions about this, but no answers. So please continue. This is interesting.
Sure. Speed is another facet. And when you talk about speed, they are able to outrun police drones and helicopters that were attempting to follow them. The New Jersey State Police is one that I examined, and they had actually a helicopter over one of these drones, and the drone was exhibiting no heat emissions or anything, electronic emissions. And the New Jersey State Police helicopter, which was equipped with a lot of sensing equipment, finally made a decision for safety to break off and return to base.
Yeah. This is crazy. And people have been seeing these things, and I'm trying to understand this myself, so help us out. This is one of my questions to you. Sure. For all the time that people have been seeing these type of objects, quote, the old UFOs, now the big UAP thing, why the recent surge in the drone thing? I mean, these are not, in my opinion, I'm not the aeronautical engineer here. these are just not something you go to your local store, electronics store, and just go in there and buy one. And isn't this true also that the FAA, I'm not a drone flyer, and maybe somebody out there is who could help us on this, and maybe you can, the maximum altitude in areas of restriction like airports. So obviously we have a lot of concerns here with what's going on.
100%. This business of stealth. They were turning off their lights when they were approached. Some speculated that they were aware of what was going on around them. People were rolling down their car windows trying to get images of them on their phones, and the drone would immediately take evasive action and move away from the car. That's pretty incredible. Sophisticated. That's pretty sophisticated for a remotely operated drone. The FAA requires them to broadcast their identification and location data. Any drones that are above 250 grams. Many of these did not, and that was very stark.
Yeah, this is. It almost. I hate to say this. It almost makes me kind of. I don't like the word angry. It makes me very, very agitated. Maybe that's a similar word, but and maybe this gives other people. I mean, come on, what the heck? I've heard all kinds of theories, Douglas, on this. You know, one of them, and maybe this is bizarre, is that at one time in the New York metropolitan area, something came in from a foreign, on a big cargo ship, and it supposedly had some radiation detection or some kind of radiation, and that these were out there floating around to, trying to sniff out the radiation. And, I spent a little time in the law enforcement world, and quick story from my side, when they had the Super Bowl out here in Arizona many, many years ago in the Glendale Stadium where they play, we find out that days before we're standing there and I see these helicopters flying around. And my friend says to me, you know what that is? And I said, no. And I didn't know this. He said, Department of Energy has these very special helicopters that sniff out radiation so that if you have a mass event like that, you don't want to see a nuclear weapon or anything like that. So wasn't that a story about something in the New York metro area? Tell us about that. I heard that. I don't know if I believe it. I don't know what to believe.
Yes, exactly. Well, what that was all about was the Nuclear Regulatory Commission puts out alerts anytime there's a hazard, a NBC hazard or radiological hazard. And in this case, somebody jumped on it. And I guess I can come to that right now because it's part of what is the origin of these drones and who's operating them and what are the theories behind them. But in this case, there was a alert put out for low-level radioactive material, which essentially were medical isotopes that are used in hospitals.
Right.
Now, what happened was that quickly escalated into a very controversial issue with a Saxon Aerospace CEO coming on all the TV and everything. He was on Fox News, this guy, and he said he had a single source, that based on the numbers of drones and the search patterns, that they were looking for an improvised nuclear device or a dirty bomb.
Correct.
And what happened was I did the research on that because he made a statement. He was on a podcast, and I said, well, listen, I'm going to listen to this guy very carefully, what he's saying. And he said it's a Ukrainian warhead that was left over from when President Reagan eliminated all nuclear weapons in the 1980s. Well, I checked on that, and that's patently false. First off, President Reagan didn't eliminate all nuclear weapons in the 1980s. There was an intermediate nuclear weapons ban that went on, but these weapons were all returned to Russia, and even more so, the Congress was briefed on this, and they were point blank asked, as the FBI, DOD, DHS, and the FAA, what's the truth of this? Are you searching for a nuclear device? And they said, absolutely not.
Wow, that's interesting. We're almost at the bottom of the hour with the hard break here, and I just want to remind everybody you can still get in, and those of you that are calling, we'll be going to you just as soon as we return from the other side of this break coming up in just a moment. The contact number here at this big starship that's navigated, of course, by Tony right now, navigating our powerhouse starship, we call it 77 WABC, is 1-800-848-9222. This is fascinating because I always what do I know? I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I'm not involved in the nuclear weapons industry. I talk to a lot of people that are, And at one time, Douglas, I thought that it was one of those man-packed portable nuclear devices that are supposedly, what, am I right, missing somewhere out there. If you counted 10, there's some missing. Maybe there's 10 or 20 missing. But even that was a possible idea, correct?
Exactly. Well, one of the problems with that is and this is basic information that you can get on open source. If they were searching for something that was on the ground, the best way to do that is get on the ground.
There you go. And we're going to go to that hard break there, Douglas. Hate to cut you short.
Sure.
And we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with our very special guest. He's taking his time this morning, and we appreciate it, with you, providing you with the best information we can on these interesting subjects to open up our mind. Who's our guest? Douglas E. Cupo. He obviously is a retired Naval Intelligence Officer, United States retired Navy captain, and he has lots to say. As we move through time and space here, ladies and gentlemen, our time slot always here midnight from Friday night, I should say, to 2 a.m. Saturday morning here in the Eastern Daylight Time Zone. And if you're listening to us across the nation, we certainly appreciate your interest in a show that I hope you'll tell your friends and neighbors about. And you can listen to the Dr. Sky Experience podcast by going simply to WABCRadio.com and look up our podcast. We'll be right back after these important announcements that keep the radio station moving through time and space.
Brace the rudder! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
32 minutes after the hour. Thank you for being with us as we welcome you to your weekend. Whether you're calling us from the West Coast, the East Coast, or everywhere around the world, stay tuned. Our special guest, Douglas E. Cupo, has lots to say about drones, UAPs, and another topic we'll talk about. Let's go to the callers right now. You've been patient. Don, good morning in Floral Park. You're on with our special guest, Douglas Cupo. Good morning.
Hey, guys. Hey, Dr. Sky. Yeah, I have an idea about what this all could be. I could be wrong. I just want to throw this at you. What if there was like a mother drone, large drone, that had all the capabilities of projecting out images, 3D images out into space, like you see in Disney World or something, in the Hollywood Hotel.
Like a hologram. Right.
Yeah, hologram, right. And this would, if they could, and then one could maybe put 15 or 20 of these things out and make it look like the drones. Didn't have any sound. And when something came close to them, they could just, change. They could turn it into an orb, or they could just make it disappear, or make it look smaller, or make it look like it's going away at a high rate of speed.
Wow!
It could do incredible turns because it doesn't have any. You wouldn't be spamming a can or anything like that, right?
Yeah, you bring a lot to the table. Let's go to Douglas. I'm sure he has better ideas on this than I do, but your theories are pretty much right on.
Yeah, it's a very interesting theory you have. Because that's been posited, actually, that this might be some type of a holographic capability, because the military is examining that type of technology right now to actually spoof enemy fighters and use it for airborne encounters. So the question, again, would come to, is what is the purpose? What is the intent?
Well, it could be. If there's a military intent, would be, say you were you wanted to make the other side think that you had 20 planes coming in, and they have to put their forces over here, and it was only one drone.
Douglas, your response? We got to move forward. We got so many people. It's amazing. Boy, you're lighting up the phone lines, Douglas. But your quick response back to Don.
It's certainly a theory that could be looked at, but there are several others. But it's a good comment. I appreciate
Don,
it.
thank you for being part of our family. I hope you'll join us as we continue to talk about these mysteries. Let's say good morning to Pat in Yonkers. You have some theories and also some ideas of an encounter yourself. Good morning. How are you?
The manufacturer is like that.
Yeah. Right.
Pat, you're on the air.
Thank you. Hello?
Yes, Pat, good morning. Go right ahead.
I wanted to call because I'm not crazy or anything, right? I come
Absolutely
out of my son's
right.
house. I came out of my son's house. It was during the winter. I don't remember what month. And it was like, regular night, 8 o'clock dark. I walk out. I hear this grinding sound. I'm looking up as I'm walking down his walkway, and behind the house across the street, a huge. I was in shock.
Wow.
A huge drone. It was really big, like the size of a car. And I'm looking at it, and I didn't even think to take my phone out and take a picture because I was like, what the hell is that? And I'm following it along the sky. Thank you. I'm following along the sky, and it goes into Cross County. Because it was like so low. It came from behind the house across the street, and it kind of like must have, I don't know where it came from, but it was grinding. Pat, it was going. It was very low and going up.
Right, you're one of the many people that are testifying right here on this radio show about strange encounters in the sky. But Douglas, this is pretty common. I mean, people are seeing so many things. And Pat, I appreciate what you're doing. And like I said to the last caller, I hope you'll be part of our family as we try to explore answers in the time we have. So thank you for being part of this show this morning. I appreciate your time, Pat.
Very interesting.
Let's say hi to Paul. He's in Pennsylvania. You have a story, if you can make it quick. And we just ask the callers just to stay on measure with the topic because of all the people that we have. But we say good morning to Paul. How are you? Paul, are you with us? Okay, if I don't hear Paul, give it one more time. Paul, are you with us here from Pennsylvania? Okay, let's go to Dennis right now in the District of Columbia. Good morning to you. How are things in the nation's capital this morning?
Well, the cherry blossoms are out, and it's very nice to know that spring has arrived. And so I'm enjoying this moment. And what I wanted to say was to your guest that I don't know if he's aware of the name Dr. Stephen Greer. He's a ufologist. Yeah. And his take on all of this is that these drones are transformational. In other words, he's saying they're extraterrestrial and that they have the ability to transform themselves from a solid object to an immaterial object, as you have described these orbs. And I don't know if this is something you have researched out or are looking at, but I think it has value and merit. I personally believe in UFOs, and I believe we are being inhabited. But
well, Dennis, I appreciate your call here. You'll have to take the answer off air because of the popularity of the number of people that are calling here. But he brings up some good points, I think, Douglas, about this, and your response would be?
Yes, clearly that's a big area of investigation, these orbs and what they're all about, and the connection given the drone swarms. The orbs have been observed in space with the International Space Station and the shuttle. A scientist recently put a report out where he showed that these orbs are huge in size. Some as big as several kilometers across, and they literally have hunter-predator type activities that they are seeing.
Amazing.
Them do in space. So he's got the imagery. He shows the imagery of these shots from the International Space Station and the space shuttle. As many as 10 events he's cataloged, and he's examined them, and he said something is very strange going on here.
Well, Douglas, when we come up to the next break, and after that, I want to see, with your okay, if we can also comment on a subject that's really, I think, earth-shattering or whatever, global-shattering, is the concept, and we'll hopefully talk about that with you, about these undersea, fast-moving UFO-type objects. But before we do that, let's say hello to Frank in Maine, who has, as we report here, he's going to tell us about an incident that happened in the state of Maine. Good morning. Are you with us, Frank?
Yes, I am, Dr. Sky, and it's really, really great to hear you. I heard you in little segments. Hearing you in this big forum, it's great.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, Dr. Sky, I and your guest, I'm a transplant from the New York area, and prior to that, I was a teacher, and before that, I was in the Air Force for 8 years. I spent time in the Air Force from 81 to 91, and I'm going to tell you the bases I was in. I was in Loring, I was in Bentwaters and Woodbridge, I was in Chanute, all the bases that shut down mysteriously after incidents that happened, especially in Loring. Loring shut down in 94, but when I went in 1990, they were shutting operations so much after an incident that happened in 75 that they told us not to go into certain areas because those areas are quote-unquote off limits to all personnel. Now, I had secret security clearance, and they refused me. My question to your guest is,
to Douglas, yes.
How come bases shut down after these incidents? They seem to mysteriously just close. And I not only I noticed it, but other people that were in the Air Force with me as loadmasters noticed it. So is there a connection between bases that close and things that happen within the realms of these sightings? Is it because they just want to eliminate like the problem and just say, look, these bases don't exist, nothing happened? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
is there a connection?
Before Douglas answers, I just want to say something, Frank, and I think you know a lot more about this, and I hope, again, you'll be part of this family for a long time to come. The B-36 Big Bomber, which is something that people should look up if they haven't seen it, they called it Magnesium Overcast because there was this giant, six-engine propeller, driven aircraft with little jet engines on the side. But Loring Air Force Base was also, I'm sure, one of the places where it flew. But strangely, as we want to hear Douglas's comment on this, about what you're talking about, Frank. So go right ahead, Douglas. This is interesting stuff.
Yeah, I don't know specifically about bases closing that have been associated with these sightings. But one thing is certain. There have been over 600 reported sightings from the North American Aerospace Defense Command commander when he testified in front of Congress last year over sensitive United States military installations that were going on coincident with this northeastern and midwestern drone swarm. So these they have been going over not just military bases, but they've been going over nuclear sites. They've been going over power plants. They've been going over critical infrastructure. A mayor from northern New Jersey talked about 60 drones going into a major reservoir, water supply area that supplies New Jersey with most of its water. 60 drones to me, if that was an amateur setup, it would just seem logistically so challenging.
Absolutely.
Private association flying 60 and one. If you call it a target, it was an enormous number.
That's why we do this show, right? Opening up our minds, and we thank Frank for joining us from the state of Maine. Yeah. He gets to see the eclipse early on Saturday morning at sunrise, like many people in the Northeast and up into eastern Canada. But you know what? It's kind of interesting, but I want to do that with your okay. I mean, we saved, I hate to say the best for last because all of this is important, but talking about this whole subject, about not only what's in the air that's mysterious, but how about the undersea sightings of UFOs? I'm going to let our captain here, Douglas E. Cupo, tell us all about that when we come back from this particular break here on the Dr. Sky Experience, where 77 WABC. We'll be right back.
This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Time is the fourth dimension, and it's 46 minutes after the hour. Our special guest is the MUFON investigator and author Douglas E. Cupo. He's here to talk with us to the top of the hour, ladies and gentlemen. And now, Douglas, take it away and talk about the subject that I find most fascinating, about these undersea objects that are detected by the Navy. That's your area of expertise. Tell us.
Sure. So the unidentified submerged objects are the USOs, and the Navy originally had that term used to apply to large sea mammals that could be obstructing submarines and things of that type, like whales and things of that type.
Imagine, right? Mm-hmm.
But recently, with people like Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who's become kind of a ufologist, instant ufologist. He's an oceanographer by trade. He's done investigations into these USOs, and he's been interviewing a lot of submariners and a lot of commercial fishermen and others who have had contacts with these phenomenon. And here are some of these points that are being made. Yes. During the Cold War, there were some reports of what was originally mistaken for a torpedo by a submarine detection, and it made this object made impossible maneuvers, followed the submarine around, and then darted off. Well, we have actual witnesses who are on submarines who have attested to these what they call fast movers. And literally, in 1994, on a Los Angeles attack submarine, a government classified project was undertaken by one of actually our MUFON people. He's a photo imagery expert. He came aboard in his regular job, and he picked up he witnessed a fast mover going across the sonar display, and the sonar operator was asking the XO, "What did you do?" And the XO basically said, "Log it and dog it." And in Navy parlance, that means just don't file it. Don't.
That's it. And nobody found out what it was. But here's something interesting I'll bring up, and then I want to go to the callers and see if we can get everybody through to speak with you and ask their question.
Right.
I've also read that the Russian Navy has developed what they call this autonomous AI giant torpedo called the Poseidon. And apparently it's alleged to be able, I'm not the expert on this, I just read this stuff, that it has the capability of traveling literally about 100 or more knots, underwater. And it has the capability of having a gigantic, maybe upwards of a 50 megaton, nuclear warhead on it to actually go into harbors and wipe things out. So who knows? Maybe this is some of the things that is human intelligence or something, or crafted, but we don't know. So that's amazing. So let's go to the callers here. Let's wrap it up because we're almost at the top of the hour. We people patiently waiting here, and I appreciate it. Sue, good morning in New Jersey. You have an encounter yourself you'd like to share. Well, let's go to George right now in Pennsylvania. You have an experience you'd like to share with us, I'm sure. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, down in Pittsburgh here, Dr. Schultz captured and held down a square box APO. and it was pulling 700 pounds. And if it wanted to go underwater, he would add a complex gravity field on it in the front and a vector in or ion engine to it. It will fly underwater because it pushes the water away by the nature of the gravity field, force field that is generated in it. But it wasn't and he looked at it and he said, George, I got this fine, but I can't explain it. It's not in the physics books yet.
Wow, where'd that come from, George? That's pretty bizarre, right? Nobody knows.
Yeah, and he put it on the drawing board, and he says, George, I'm less than 4 minutes to the moon. But that's what he had captured, because I told him to tie the thing down or you'll never find it again.
That's amazing. Could it be like an anti-gravity source? Who knows? But, Douglas, you can wrap it up here and respond, of course, to George. And anything else? And would also like to know, how do people get in touch with you as we move to the top of the hour?
Sure. You can just use my email. I mean, I can give you my email.
Yeah, please do.
Sure. You want me to give it now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Sure. DCUPO72180
So you're an AOL guy. Boy, I had one of those accounts a long time ago. Give it to us again so people can give it to us again.
DCUPO72180
Interesting. All right, let's kind of summarize, because this is very important, I'm sure, to so many people out there. You do this. You have a lot of experience in the Navy, and I'm sure there are things that I could ask, but you would have to tell me, no. I know. Right. I have to respect those responses, too, because you're obviously loyal to this country. But give us a summation here. What do you think this stuff is? And let's go to drones first. What do you think is really going on there that people need to hear?
Well, with the drones, I mean, there was one theory that it was U.S. Systems that were monitoring ET orbs. Somebody came up with that theory, and But as far as what they are, they're a combination for sure of hobby drones and things, but clearly, we do not have the answer of whether we know. I can say with confidence they're not foreign adversary. They're not. We do not believe they're foreign adversary. I subscribe to what the Defense Department is saying and the intelligence community is saying. And also, is it a non-state actor like a cartel? That's a possibility, because they do have drones, the cartels.
Yes, they do.
And so that's a issue. As far as testing a system, a military testing a system, if it was a military test, they more than likely are not going to be doing it over residential areas, and especially when restrictions were cited by the FAA. Remember, they declared no-fly zones?
You bet, yes.
So the military is not about to be breaking the law. I did some research on that. The military basically has to get permission when they do their exercises in the United States in certain warning areas that are on land, over land, and off the coasts. So that's where these things are showing up. There's one that I will tell you about that I had in my article, which was an Air Force veteran who has reconnaissance background, who photographed at 25,000 feet a glowing orb, and he sent it in for analysis. And the analysis is very compelling. That it was 100% not a planet. They knew that. It was not a plane. It was some gaseous plasmoid type substance that is. It was vibrating, and he got quite a bit of attention from it. Very reputable guy, and I was finished by saying that we've got a couple of issues here. One is these incursions against the military bases and the nuclear facilities and critical infrastructure need to be investigated, but we need to be, as you probably in your audience has seen, building countermeasures to them. There have to be countermeasures. And the worry that I have is that the military was acknowledging that some of the countermeasures, these jamming systems that they had, weren't working against these things.
It's amazing stuff, Douglas. Let's try to squeeze one more call in here, and I don't like the word squeeze, but let's try to go to Phil in my home state of Arizona. Good morning. You're on with Douglas Cupo. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, hi. I think it's a little off topic, but I was just wondering about what is the whole purpose of measuring light years? If we're never going to achieve that, to hit that mark, why are there even light years counted?
Well, it's a distance measuring device because all I can tell you, Phil, and this is the story that we wrap up here with, the great mysteries of the universe. So when anybody's out there driving along and let's say no harm comes to the Tesla people tomorrow in a day of activism, as we've been hearing about, but the fastest of those Teslas, I gather, is the Plaid. And if you think that's fast, folks, imagine this, the speed of light, ready? 670 million miles an hour. But to go to Phil's concern, it's the basis that we have to understand any distance in the universe. And even that, I'm sure one day will be changing because of the ever expansion of the universe. Phil, I appreciate you, and I hope you'll be part of our family and enjoy the Dr. Sky experience and be part of our shows in the future. Thank you for calling. Yes, that's interesting, Douglas. You know, we talk about all these things. And one of my theories, real quick here, I wanted to get this in and see what you think real quick. You know, the drones that we see, and now we talk about these Tic Tacs. And I've talked to so many of the people like you have, you know, from the David Fravors. And here's my theory on this. This sounds weird. If you could bend space-time, you could move back and forth through time, as Einstein said. The movement of, you know, being able to move through space-time, it's the fourth dimension. Now, let's say this. We all started in caves a long time ago. People obviously can't get along. Why can't we get along? Asteroid impacts, nuclear war, not to be Mr. Negative. But let's say AI in the future, where do people go when there's very little place to live? They go underground. So let's say AI assimilates into the biologic state, and that the AI now has this over-encompassing power to be able to do what nobody can think now in the quantum world of being able to move through time and space. Maybe the drones, no. Maybe the Tic Tacs are more like a sentient being that has the ability from the far future, from us, to move through space-time. I hope I didn't sound like I had a shot of whiskey on that one. What do you think?
No, it's a very interesting theory, and it's in line with the Hal Puthoff theories and even Jacques Vallée. Clearly, the military was not blowing smoke with those sightings that occurred. And they have hard tack objects. These are physical objects that are being detected, and they do not have the standard propulsion. They do not have any visible means of lift, and yet they are performing phenomenal feats like making right-angle turns at high velocity.
Wow, that's amazing.
What I would lead with is that there are a number of citizen groups and academic groups like the Harvard University's Galileo Project, MUFON, this place called AARO, which is the government office, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. They're the government office that's charged with looking at these anomalous phenomena.
That's amazing.
And the point is they need to work the investigation and try to resolve some of these enigmatic phenomena. And as you pointed out a moment ago, you used the word quantum. It's a very good point. We need machine learning, quantum computing, and AI, because that'll help us with automatic target recognition through large
Douglas, we've got to run, but thank you. God bless you. Thank you for your information in opening our minds on these great mysteries.
You're very welcome.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with hour number 2. Stay tuned here at 77 WABC.
So good, so good, so good.
Great gifts for mom? We've got them.
And they're up to 60% off at Nordstrom Rack stores now.
You know they have Marc Jacobs?
Gotta show mom some love.
That is so good.
Snag amazing deals on Mother's Day gifts from Barefoot Dreams, Kate Spade New York, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things, like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for a Light and Fit remix. Like a crunchy storm of graham cookies, caramel pearls, and dark chocolate, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Light and Fit remix varieties with craveable flavors and up to 120 calories and 10 grams of protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
We're shipping Mother's Day gifts with a rapid-fire round of questions. Ready?
Yes. My gift. Can you pack it?
Yep.
Ship it?
Yes.
Guarantee it?
Of course.
Oh, send gift baskets?
For sure.
Protect electronics? Dog-proof it? Return it if they hate it?
Yes, no, and yeah.
Are you the UPS store?
Hey, we have a winner!
Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS store. Visit a store today.
Always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
And good evening and good morning, no matter where you're listening to this powerhouse radio station. Around the nation and around the world, and I'm sure the powerful signal out into the cosmos. In hour number 2, we switch to talk about subject matters that relate to American exceptionalism and so many wonderful things that you probably don't know about. A surprise guest in just a moment. Some 5,080 days ago, the United States conducted Operation Neptune Spear, in which SEAL Team 6 shot and killed Osama bin Laden at his Abbottabad, Pakistan home. Bin Laden, who had founded al-Qaeda and masterminded the September 11th attacks, as you know, had been the subject of United States military manhunt since the beginning of the war in Afghanistan, but escaped to Pakistan, allegedly with Pakistani support, during or after the Battle of Tora Bora in December 2001. The mission was part of an effort led by the Central Intelligence Agency, with the Joint Special Operations Command, known as JSOC, coordinating the mission specialists involved in the raid. In addition to SEAL Team 6 participating in these units and these operations of JSOC, it included the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment and the CIA's Special Activities Division. Who can we talk to about that experience is none other than Robert J. O'Neill, a former United States Navy SEAL, TV news contributor and author, and after participating in May 2001's Operation Neptune Spear with SEAL Team 6, he, of course, has lots to say about the takedown of Osama bin Laden. And with that, it's a privilege and honor. Welcome, Robert J. O'Neill, to the Dr. Sky Experience.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good morning, sir. Wow, this is an opportunity for me. I'm like a kid here. I'm sitting on, like a cloud here because I've always wondered about this, and God bless you and the SEAL team members and all the military for everything they do, whether the person turns the nut and uses a wrench on a truck all the way up to the people who do the details. But tell us a little bit more about yourself. I mean, obviously you're talking to us from a remote location that we're not going to ask about, of course, because the sensitivity of all the things that have gone on in your life. But describe to many people out there, if they're not even familiar with it, what it really takes, not only to become a United States Navy SEAL, but the preparation for that. And how did you start off? I mean, one day you just woke up and said, I want to serve my country, which we love. Talk about your experience first.
Well, I was at a point in life. I was playing college basketball, which was my plan in life to do that, get a degree, work with my dad, get an MBA. And one day I just got to a point where it was like, I just got to get out of town. And I've noticed a lot of people around that age, men and women, 18, 19, 20. It's like, it's just time to leave. I grew up here. And the easiest way for me to leave Butte, Montana, was to join the Marine Corps. I had two friends I grew up with who were 2 years older. The day they graduated from high school, they both went to Marine boot camp, and every time they came back, they looked like Marines. You know what that's like? Just awesome. Awesome. The uniforms, the physique, the confidence. So I went to join the Marine Corps. And as luck would have it, the Marine recruiter was not in the office, but the Navy guy was. And the only reason I went into the Navy guy's office is because my two buddies, the Marines, had told me something I didn't know, that the Marine Corps is actually part of the Department of the Navy. It's just the men's department. And so, seriously. And that changed the entire trajectory of my life, because I went in there and I simply asked, hey, where's the Marine? If anyone would know, you would. And he said, well, why do you want the Marines? I said, I want to be a sniper. I'm in Montana. I'm a hunter. Marines have the best snipers in the world. And he said, look no further. We have snipers in the Navy. You need to become a SEAL first, but you get through that, and we'll send you to sniper school. He didn't have the authority to send me to sniper school, and he kind of brushed over the Navy SEAL thing. And I didn't know how to swim. And
are you serious? You didn't know how to swim? Wow.
No, it's Montana, landlocked, cold. I could keep myself afloat. I didn't know any technique. But I remember thinking, I'm 19, I'm kind of naive, but here sitting before me is a professional recruiter. Why is he going to lie to me? And I signed it, and then he showed me the video about what it takes to be a SEAL. I did have a few months in what was called the delayed entry program. So I still had my college ID. They had a pool there, so I went there and I taught myself how to swim. I had some help from some friends, and then I went to Navy boot camp from Montana that was kind of sheltered, but the thing that really caught me there was mindset, because even at boot camp the first day, what I realized, because I met dudes from Southern California escaping the gangs, dudes from Long Island or South Florida.
Right, all people from all over, right.
Right, but what we all had in common is we were all afraid, and we were convinced we just made the worst decision of our lives. That was it. And that kind of built a bond, and I kind of learned where, it doesn't matter really what you look like or where you're from. We're similar. I went to, basic underwater demolition SEAL training, or BUDS as they call it. An average dude. But I had an instructor say, you've probably read the books and maybe seen a movie about SEALs or two, but regardless of what you've been,
right.
And he said, but regardless of what you've been told, this course is not impossible. People graduate. Look at me. I'm living proof, so I'll never ask you to do anything impossible, but I will make you do something very hard, followed by something very hard, followed by something very hard, day after day after day, for 8 straight months. And that sounds like a lot to get from now to 8 months from now, but don't think about it that way. That's not how you achieve a long-term goal. I want you to do it like this. Wake up in the morning on time, make your bed the right way, and then brush your teeth. That's 3 victories. You just started your day. Mm-hmm. Started with 3 wins, not bad. Make it to the 4 a.m. workout on time, and as I'm beating you, don't think about the pain. Concentrate on your next goal in life, which is breakfast.
See, you're also a motivational speaker, so I can hear it coming through the airwaves here. But let me say this.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this is going to light up the phone lines. If let me say this, every subject matter that we talk about, obviously this station, the powerhouse that it is, if you'd like to get into conversation here, I'm sure you have many questions, ladies and gentlemen. Our special guest is Robert O'Neill. And I hate the word former. I would always say, Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, a lot to do with the takedown. And, it wasn't a capture mission per se. It was not to say it was a kill mission. I can't say that officially. But here's the number, folks, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. We'll be talking in great detail with our special guest about Operation Neptune Spear. So you go through this BUDS training. I mean, that's the big difference, my God. I mean, how many people wash out of that when they come in? What would you say the percentage of washout is?
Well, the people that make it to the first day, because there's a long process to get to the first day. So the people that make it through, 85% of those guys don't make it through. Mm-hmm. My class was a big class. We started with 217, graduated about 33. The class before me, I think, graduated 7. And then what's funny, though, is the older we get, the harder the training used to be. What I tell guys now is I tell guys that my class graduated 2, and then they made us fight it out. So I'm obviously not telling the truth. But the most important thing we learned there, other than short goals equal long goals, is that keep the right mindset. I describe these are guys that just get it, and through your mind, you can make your body do anything. If your mind quits, your body follows. But if your mind stays in it, you can do anything. And then I went from there. It was 1996 after SEAL Team 2 because there was nothing going on, and I figured I could get to Bosnia. And my plan again was to stay in for 4 years and go back to Butte, Montana. But I met the guy, so I reenlisted. And then during that enlistment, 9/11 happened, so I can't leave now. I got to fight. And then I heard about SEAL Team 6, which is the Tier 1 unit in the Navy, and I went over there. And then from there, I got into a lot of combat, but I also found myself on some of the most famous missions in modern history. I was on the mountain when we rescued the lone survivor. I was the lead jumper to rescue Captain Richard Phillips from Somali pirates, and then I was on and I was on the Bin Laden raid. But what I learned is I wasn't special. I just made myself available. And my favorite quote right now is, wherever you are, be there. To be in the moment, and as long as you're prepared, because the perfect plan is not going to happen. But as long as you're prepared for stuff, you can accomplish anything with the right attitude.
You're absolutely right, my friend. And folks, jump in early here because we've only got limited time here, but we'd like to do this, and we always go to the callers here with their questions, comments. 1-800-848-9222 if you have a question for our very special guest. But it's so fascinating when we talk about this whole subject about the Navy SEALs. I don't know, Robert. I don't know. You maybe have known him. The icon, I guess, a long time ago. I knew and spent some time talking with Dick Marcinko. And a lot of people may not know who he was or is. He's passed on. But describe him to us. Wasn't he one of the founders of SEAL Team 6? Am I correct?
Yeah, he fought in Vietnam with SEAL Team 2, which is the team I went to, and then he founded SEAL Team 6 in 1980 because there was a hostage rescue attempt for the hostages in Iran. And the communication wasn't there, so they needed a joint command for communication, and the Navy came up with SEAL Team 6. And Marcinko, this is pretty cool, he named it SEAL Team 6 because at the time, in 1980, we only had SEAL Team 1 and SEAL Team 2, and then he commissioned SEAL Team 6 because he knew the Russians would say, okay, we know about SEAL Team 1 and 2 and 6, where the hell are 3, 4, and 5? Just for, he's a smart dude, and he was the guy
that... count.
But he led by example. He was the guy, first one there, work hard, be in the gym, go to the range, and like big boy mentality, get the weapons that the enemy might be using. You might need to piss off some of the officers above you, doesn't matter. And he really brought the toughness to, from Vietnam to SEAL Team 6. And then he's the founder. I met him once at a McDonald's in Virginia Beach, and I was starstruck. That was way before anything big happened. But he, obviously a trailblazer and just, a Vietnam guy. So that says a lot.
Well, Robert, he told me a story. I guess maybe you could add to the, story here. He said to me that they once had this submarine in which an admiral said nobody will be able to penetrate the security of the nuclear submarine. And then Dick Marcinko, I guess, and his team took on the challenge. He was describing it as they actually broke through the security, and there were a lot of people who had egg on their face in the higher ranks. Some truth to that? Or is that just one of those fish stories?
He's older than me, but he started a team called Red Cell that would test the security for American and coalition installations, and they were really, really good at what they did. And they would sometimes go in and capture the commanding officer of the base, stuff like that. And they definitely ruffled feathers. They showed the vulnerabilities of the base, but also their capabilities. And he did end up by making the wrong people mad in prison for a stint. But he was, like as far as I heard from some of the guys I knew, like Dennis Chalker, one of the plank owners of SEAL Team 6, all that stuff's true. And they're the guys that came up with the tactics that we were able to work upon to, fight Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and ISIS.
That's amazing stuff here. Our special guest, Robert J. O'Neill, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, forever a Navy SEAL. At least that's the way I would say it. And we're going to be talking with him with your questions and comments at 1-800-848-9222. A very interesting story in history. Obviously, you didn't ask to be part of that, but you became part of it, Operation Neptune Spear, which we'll get into in a couple of moments. But it's so fascinating. When we go through this training, the washout rate, like you were describing, is incredible. But let me ask you this straight up. Are there any females in such a unit nowadays, or what's the story behind that? I'm just curious.
No, there's not, but we do work with special operators who are women, and they have a different skill set. I'm a big believer, like if I don't really care what you do behind closed doors, if you can carry me after I've been shot back home to my wife, you can have the job. That's fine. But just physically, they haven't lowered the standards, so women just simply can't make it through. They haven't yet. And not to say that there's not women out there that can beat me up.
Absolutely.
But we eventually, and it took time to figure out what women can do as far as you need to respect cultures when you go somewhere. If you're an occupier if you don't. And so we finally the hard way learned it's disrespectful to go into someone's house, disrespect their religion, and don't put your hands on their women. So we brought women with us, and they would deal with the women, deal with the kids, yet they went through the selection course, and they were fighters. And the best story I have about them, this is after the Bin Laden raid, there was 30 SEALs, 3 women, and we were walking through a icy cold swamp in Afghanistan in January January. And then we got in a gunfight, and then we left. But the whole time there were 30 people complaining and 3 that weren't. And it was the women were complaining, and we got back after this, and I said, "Look, everyone's complaining. Why weren't you?" And they said, "Because we want to keep our jobs." So it was pretty cool. But yeah, they've been there with us, and there are women in combat, but so far no female SEALs.
Robert, I really appreciate your time. Let's go to the callers here and try to get as many people in. And again, we just ask kindly that everybody just try to stay on measure with the questions because we do have a lot of callers. Let's say good morning to Al in New York City. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, Dr. Sky, I want to thank you for your service and Mr. O'Neill for all that he did for this country.
Thank you. Everybody did something, right? Mm-hmm. All gave some and some gave all, as they say, right, Robert? There you go.
That's very true.
That's right. May I ask, Mr. O'Neill, when you did finally retire, were you a chief petty officer? Just curious, and then I have a question about the actual operation.
Yeah, I retired. I didn't retire. I got out as a senior chief petty officer.
Oh, that's very nice. Listen, I understand that they had troubles similar to the many years ago, the Iranian thing with the helicopter crash. Same thing with that helicopter crashing in the compound. Were they concerned about that particular helicopter had a hush kit on it, that the Pakistanis would recover it and maybe give that technology to somebody else? Were you concerned about that? And also, was Mr. bin Laden armed at that, to the best of your knowledge?
Great questions, Al.
Well, it was the reason the helicopter went down was it was a little bit warmer than we anticipated, and the walls were built differently, so there was an updraft, and the pilot realized if he tried, he couldn't hover because he was going to have guys fast rope. If he tried to power up, he would have flipped it and killed everybody. So if he spun it though and pinned the tail of the helicopter on the 20-foot fence and pinned the nose into the dirt, he might save everyone's lives. And he decided that in about a second. And that tells you just the people that are involved, how good they are. So he just put it down that way. And then once it was down, we'd only talked about that for 30 seconds. That was the scariest thing imaginable to have it go down, but it did. We had a deal, they let us off in the wrong spot, and we were just able to get where we were going, obviously because of what the pilot did, but then because we just kept it simple and mastered the basics. If the guy in front of me goes left, I go right. Just do that over and over and calm down and realize that calm is contagious. If you're calm, people will be calm. And we, went through the house methodically. About 11 minutes into it is when I ran into bin Laden, and he was not armed. But I thought he had a suicide vest on because the way he was maneuvering, he was about 3 feet away from me when I saw him, and he had his hands on his wife Amal's shoulders, and he was kind of maneuvering. And so I thought he's got to be a suicide bomber, so I shot him twice in the head, and he was standing up, and then once more on the ground.
Wow, it's amazing because, rumors have it. I mean, we just see bin Laden. And again, Al, thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll always be part of our family here. We appreciate you and all the callers. But I always see in these videos, you see the little Krinkov, the little AKSU, the little tiny shorty version of that. And some stories, and you're the guy to ask, some say that the thing was hanging on the wall and apparently he was trying to grab for it. But you were there. I wasn't. So apparently, was it somewhere within reach, you think?
It was in there. We grabbed it. We brought it out. He didn't have it in his arms, but he could have gotten to it. But I mean, I was so close to him, he wasn't going to reach for a gun. I thought he would have like a leads to an explosive vest on both wrists, and he just clapped them together. That was my threat. And honestly, on a mission like that, after he had half a second to convince me not to kill him, and he simply didn't do it.
Wow. That's amazing because, look at all the pain, ladies and gentlemen. God bless all those in the New York area and Washington and Pennsylvania, the day we lost so many people. And this guy, I mean, who's, I don't know, without getting into the politics of this whole thing, there probably were, right, Robert, opportunities to capture this guy way before. But somehow this guy slipped through the cracks. And we're hearing all kinds of stories that in the garments that he was wearing, some say he had some secret numbers sewn into the garments and all this kind of stuff. But we'll get into this in a few more moments here as we go to the hard break at the bottom of the hour. But we still have some time, folks, here for you. 1-800-848-9222. This is an amazing time. Robert, I'm so honored to have you here because, like we said before in the military, all gave some, but some gave all. But in this particular case, I mean, you didn't ask to go on this mission per se. I mean, this is just the evolution of getting, like you said, you were from Montana. You didn't know how to swim. So it's all about what? The whole thing talks about motivation and how you can overcome, all these negatives to positives. That's what I'm hearing here. You can do it is what we say, right? People, you can do it. Right. Don't give up. That's it. Never give up. That's the way we like to think here. But, This is so fascinating, and I'm kind of lost for words on this one because there's so many things to talk about here. But let's get into actually this whole operation that you're on here, Operation Neptune Spear. Al was bringing up subjects about helicopters. What were these modified Blackhawks that had some, quote, stealth and secret sauce to them, I gather, with whatever you can tell us without revealing national security concerns?
Yeah, they were helicopters the president didn't know about till a few weeks before the mission. When they were going to do something, they were going to bomb the place, or they were going to do what they call the hammer throw, which is a single missile against who they thought was the pacer, or go a multilateral mission with the Pakistanis, which would have been a nightmare because they would have told them right away. And then someone in the Air Force said, well, Mr. President, there's one more option, and he told them about the helicopters, and he told them about us because Admiral Bill McRaven, who was running JSOC, had sold us to him because, we had success 2 years prior with rescuing Captain Phillips. We had a very good track record in combat, and we were all very experienced in combat. And actually, what President Obama ended up saying after the mission was, I was never 100% convinced that bin Laden was there, but after seeing you guys in those helicopters, I was convinced you could go in, figure it out, and come back alive. And that's pretty much why he sold it. And the helicopters, I'm not smart enough to know why they were stealth. I know they couldn't be picked up by radar, but it does, especially now, 2025 with the internet, I am convinced aliens had to have invented these things. There's no way we did that.
Totally with you, brother. That's amazing. Just to let people know, one of the things, and I know you know these folks, after the, sad when Chris Kyle passed away, we did a very special commemorative at a big Phoenix theater here with Another Time in My Life, and we had Chris Kyle's widow on stage. We had other SEAL members, and I'm sure some of them that you probably knew. The long list goes on. But that was a very sad moment in time. I mean, Chris Kyle, God bless him. And it all comes down to what? I mean, how sadly he died. He had what? He was trying to help, if I'm correct in this, a veteran who suffered from what? Maybe PTSD, if that's what we think we read. And he's teaching him on the range how to shoot. And what happens? After all the dangerous missions he's been on, like you guys, what happens? That sad moment happens where someone else takes his life. Very, very sad story. And that's why we always commemorate the loss of Chris Kyle and so many others who lose their lives in combat. But the will to fight and the spirit goes on, which is fascinating. So this is interesting. So talk a little bit about your motivational speaking before we go down to the bottom of the break and some of the new things that you're involved in today that people may not know about.
Well, I tell people that, again, it doesn't matter what you look like or where you're from, you can accomplish anything through short-term goals. You got to be able to tell the truth, have a hard conversation, effectively communicate. The realization that fear is healthy. Fear makes you think more clearly, but panic is contagious. If one person is panics, everyone panics. But like I mentioned before, calm is contagious too. No one can tell what you're feeling. If you portray calm, people around you be calm. So just tell the truth, follow the rules, don't take shortcuts, and complacency will get you killed. Do everything like you do anything. And so now, I do the motivational speaking thing. I talk about my experiences and success as a SEAL. And then you just mentioned PTSD. I just started a cannabis company, actually in New York, because there are alternatives to help guys chill out. It's been, some guys, anything in moderation is fine, but some guys, there's an epidemic of alcoholism and suicide, and the two go hand in hand. So I started the Operator Canna company. I'm doing that, and then we got some specials coming up soon, hopefully about the big raids and. I do my apparel company, and I sign books at robertjoneal.com, which is a blast because there's a place for you to inscribe what you want me to say, and we just have fun with it because I'm a normal dude like everyone else. And like the funniest one I've done so far, my book, The Operator, someone bought one for like his buddy for his birthday, and he had me sign, "Jeff, you kill it selling mattresses like I killed bin Laden. Love, Rob." So it's just I have fun, and then my podcast, The Operator, is just because what I tell people, I don't call myself the operator. I was an operator, but if you're doing anything in life that helps someone else or your family, your community, your church, you're an operator. Like the trash man who doesn't get any thanks, that's up at 2 a.m. making Manhattan clean. He's an operator, the single-mounted operator. So I give like talks on my podcast as an operator, and then I want to hear their feedback and have a dialogue. And something a lot of people don't do is that when I'm wrong, I admit it and I say thank you, and I learn from it because I'm a big believer. You learn from failure, not from success. The frustration is a learning tool. You got to grind, and anything long term is worth getting there as opposed to instant gratification.
And a documentary on Netflix either coming or has been, American Manhunt, Osama bin Laden. Tell us quickly about that before we go to that heartbreak in just a moment.
They were going to release that. Netflix was in May, but then in March they pushed it to May. Just a couple logistical reasons, but this is going to be a great series because it's not so much about the guys on the ground that we already know about. It's the people who found them, like you were saying, the cogs in the wheel, but this big machine that no one sees. And they're talking to a lot of the planners, the targeters for the agency that have never spoken before. I think Admiral McRaven's in it. They haven't shown me yet. It's been compartmentalized. I give a really good interview, but I haven't seen it. I'm so excited to watch it, but it will be out in May, right around May 14th.
We'll be talking more with Robert J. O'Neill, Navy SEAL, Operation Neptune Spear, Navy SEAL Team 6. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, your questions and comments to the top of the hour, 1-800-848-9222. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
32 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest, Navy SEAL Forever, Robert J. O'Neill. SEAL Team 6, he's talking about something which he'll get into, and I'm sure you'll love to hear, Operation Neptune Spear. It's not every day that we get an opportunity to speak and listen to somebody who has this level of experience in one of the most amazing parts of history, the actual takedown of Osama bin Laden after he's been on the run for so long and the horrible things that happened, not only here, of course, in New York, 9/11 all across the nation and around the world. Let's talk a little bit about that, Robert. Operation Neptune Spear. Start us from the beginning and wind the clock down. We're talking about bin Laden being missing or running around, and Pakistan, kind of sheltered him, if that's kind of putting it mildly. They knew he was there, and how did we even locate where he was? Let's get into that and then talk about Operation Neptune.
Well, he was being held by parts of the ISI, which is the Pakistani intel, and so he was hiding in plain sight. And if you've never been to that part of the world, Pakistan's the center of the universe, so they have interest in not getting crazy with Al-Qaeda because they're nuclear power and they know what can happen. But they were hiding him. But our intelligence people were tracking him because they found a courier who kept calling home to his mom in Kuwait. Smarter people than me, and especially this one woman, this group of women that have tracked him from a port near Karachi, from a car way back to Abbottabad, Pakistan, which is a couple hours away by car. Right. It took them years to follow the cars back. It's really hard, very dangerous place. But they were the team was so good, and I didn't know they were there because I just finished my 12th or 13th deployment on a base in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, working next to the Bin Laden team, and I didn't even know it. And so then we got back from that. This is 2011. A month later, I was on a training trip in Miami. We got recalled to Virginia, and there was 23 of us. And the way it started was we found a thing. This thing is in a house. It's in a bowl in these mountains, and this bowl's in a country, and you guys are going to go get this thing and bring it back to us and show us, and this is not a drill. And we're like, okay, cool, what's the thing? Well, we can't tell you. All right, where's the country? Yeah. Can't tell you. Okay. Mm-hmm. How are we getting there? Can't tell you. Okay. How much air support? None. Okay, this sounds serious. Right. And then they told us we're only allowed to bring SEALs. We can't bring our Air Force guys, the combat controllers of the PJ. So, if you used to be a corpsman or a medic, carry the gear. And we thought we'd be flying into Libya because it was the Arab Spring, April of 2011. But then we started to slowly figure out because of certain people who were briefing us. And then finally, the targeting team came in, and that woman that was depicted in Zero Dark 30, she and the commanding officer of SEAL Team 6 said, the reason you guys are here is this is as close as we've ever been to Osama bin Laden. And we heard him say bin Laden. We heard her say Abbottabad, Pakistan. And I was looking around the room, and there was no cheers. It was just professionals. And the common question we had was, cool, are we going right now? We're ready. Because we've been in combat so much. But they wanted us to train, to see our capabilities, use some helicopters, and then fly out west to a secret base you can probably figure out, which is where we met the helicopters. And then we showed them what we could do, and then we were just an option. They were going to launch us to Jalalabad again to stage from there.
That's amazing. A long time ago in a distant galaxy when I was doing other shows, I had the opportunity to interview the sister of Osama bin Laden. And boy, I tell you, she was just so powerful in her dislike for her brother. Uh-huh. But it was so sad because let's go back a little bit to Osama bin Laden and his family. He actually doesn't come from a poor family at all. Am I correct in that? He comes from a very wealthy family. Thus what? Yeah, helping to finance what he's doing.
Yeah, they were the biggest construction company in Saudi Arabia. They helped build parts of Mecca. So they were worth, maybe $1 billion. I know that word gets thrown around a lot. They were worth a lot of money, and he took, instead of using his money to get richer, he became a fanatic, and he could use his money to end construction crew to help fight the Mujahideen fight the Russians in Afghanistan. That's how he ended up going over there. And so he had all that money. He got some clout, because they defeated the Russians with our help, with our Stinger missiles. And then Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. He said his Mujahideen would come help defend Saudi Arabia because he didn't want America there to get on the Holy Land. We did because, that's why we go to war in the Middle East, because of whatever. And then he decided right then, he declared a fatwa, and he called it the base Al-Qaeda, and he's going to attack America wherever he can. And so even in 93, they attacked the World Trade Center the first time with the bombing.
No, I remember that. I was a New Yorker I was living there at the time, and they came very close because when they obviously captured one of the guys involved in that, I think as the police were taking him to jail, Yusuf Ramzi, I guess, he was then said something like, they said, well, you didn't knock the buildings down, meaning the World Trade Center, and I guess his quote was, not yet, which is horrible. Yet. Yeah, you better believe it.
Well,
so let's talk about let's talk about the raid itself. I mean, people are probably wondering, gee, what the heck happened? You guys are going on this mission. Obviously, you know what the target is, but let's clarify this. This is not, and I want people to understand this from you yourself, this is not a so-called kill mission. If you had the opportunity to capture him, that would have been possible, right? Or do I have it wrong, that it really was a kill mission? Describe that to us.
It was a kill capture. It was definitely. But truth be told, I'm killing him. If I see him, I'm killing him. There's no way he's living through this. Just being a young SEAL at the time, I was smart enough to realize I'm not sending this guy to Manhattan to be on trial for 15 years.
You better believe it. Absolutely.
And we're SEAL Team 6. We left our families. It's like old Braveheart. We didn't get dressed up for nothing. So we're gonna. And everyone there wore at least NYPD, FDNY, or something, Port Authority Police Department, just so on our left shoulder, so that if someone saw him, because we were all righties, he's going to see that last, and we're going to blast him. Wow. Okay, technically, if he got out of a shower naked with his hands up, I might have grabbed him, but he's dying. I'm killing him.
Wow. So and you say it. You say it just like I want to hear this, because look at this. I mean, I'm not a person who likes to kill anything unless it's coming. I teach firearm training. I told you this as we talked. I'm not the best at anything, but I do learn one thing. I'm not a Navy SEAL. But you have a right, a universal, right to defend yourself, justification for deadly force. But in this case, wow, I mean, you're going after the big one. And describe that mission, because this is interesting. You go in, there's a couple of teams going in and out of this whole environment. The building obviously has got these gigantic concrete walls. It's a 3-story building. Carry the story on. As you guys go in there, night vision, the power's off. They shut off everything, right? So you're going night vision. Now describe what's going on here.
Yeah, the power turning off was either divine intervention or we had somebody on the ground somewhere. That was pretty impressive, but it worked out regardless. The most concerning thing about the whole mission, though, was flying in, because we had to fly in for 90 minutes to get to his compound, and we don't know if these helicopters work. And the pilots have only been flying them for about a week and a half, and they have first world air defense. Like, we don't know if this is a one-way mission. If we live through the 90 minutes, we're going to get in a gunfight as soon as we land, or fast rope, which is dangerous, because landing on the X right on target is very dangerous. When we go inside, if anyone's going to blow himself up and kill his whole family and blow up the whole building, it's Bin Laden. And then we're going to run out of fuel. We're going to run out of fuel and end up fighting with the Pakistani police, which we don't want to do, and then the army, and then either die doing that or end up in a Pakistani prison. Like, this is a one-way mission, but it's worth it.
That's amazing. So you go in the building, night vision on, you got your HK-416s and all other assorted firearms that come through the whole thing with the right 77-grain bullets, as you guys described.
That's right.
And it's a kill mission, maybe no. It's a capture mission, but like you described it, hey, this is the notorious world criminal in terrorism right now. So, hey, this is an amazing story. So let's talk about this, and we're going to come up against the break here in a few minutes. But while we have you on this, it's very important to me. He's a dead man. Now go describe what happens, because apparently his body is taken, to Bagram Air Force Base or at the time, and then he has this mysterious event happen where in a day or so, his body's wrapped, cleaned, and according to Muslim tradition, as I'm reading, he's on the USS Carl Vinson, and off the flight deck, they push him over with weighted, part of the body bag. And that's the end of the story. I mean, it seems weird to me. I don't deny that what you guys did, but isn't there a little mystery to the whole thing? Why that whole thing happened so quick? What the heck happened when you saw him dead? They took him?
I disagreed with burying him at sea from the beginning. Like, we talked about that even before we launched, before in the States, and I said it's a bad idea. You don't need to do that. And they said, well, we don't want a shrine. It's like, well, you don't understand Sunni Islam. They won't have a shrine because they only worship Allah. They don't worship false idols. That's what a shrine would be. But they decided to do it. But again, I wasn't there when they did that part. We handed him over from Bagram after the agencies did their DNA search in the professional photos. We handed them off to our Army counterparts. They flew him out to the Carl Vinson, and I never saw it happen. So now when people ask me, well, how do we know his body's not still at CIA in a big tub of betadine? I'm like, I don't know that. I was told, so that's what I'm saying. I'm going with that for now. But I mean, he's definitely dead. I killed him, so I saw that happen, and we definitely handed him over. But that was the end. I mean, my idea when I said I don't want him buried at sea, they said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, we could hang him off the George Washington Bridge and let the birds handle him."
Wow! Hey there. That's why there's Navy SEALs out there, ladies and gentlemen. We don't take any. Pardon my language, but we don't take any crap from people like that. Certainly not. Very interesting story here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can go to the callers right now. And I ask that, please, let's just stay on subject matter on this particular hour because the time is limited. Let's say good morning to Paul in Manhattan. You've got a question about SEAL teams and SEAL team law. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't expect, that you're able to talk about this. But in the lore of the SEAL teams and the original UDT teams, have you ever heard any whispers about naval special operations involved with the Roswell incident in 1947?
I haven't, and I don't see. The teams were started in 1962, so we had UDT there before that, the underwater demolition teams and the naval combat demolition units. But I don't think they'd have any reason to be in Roswell. If they were, it wouldn't surprise me. But I honestly haven't heard anything about that.
That's interesting. Well, thank you very much. And again, I'm glad that you're part of our family here as we move through time and space, Paul. But we're coming up to a break here in a moment. But I want to just talk about this for a second here. This is so fascinating. The calls that are coming back to the White House, and you know it better than I do. I'm reading, it says Geronimo, EKIA, enemy killed in action. For God, country, Geronimo, confirming the SEALs teams, obviously, taking down Osama bin Laden. The White House reaction, if you see that picture, is just so amazing. You see Hillary Clinton there looking like she's out of breath. You see all these other people like on the edge of their seat and standing in that room. The question I'm asking you is, they had no visuals on anything you're doing in there, just from what? Some sort of a drone that's flying overhead, feeding back live video. Is that correct?
I think that's correct, yeah. I think the picture was taken when the first helicopter crashed in the front yard. Because that's a spot. I mean, this was not a political mission. This was the right thing to do. But if this administration fails, they're not going to get reelected. It was that simple. But it was the right thing to do. And when Admiral McRaven, who was in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, talking back to the agency in the White House, when that happened, Admiral McRaven was so smart and tactically sound that when it crashed, he realized the White House can't do anything, but them freaking out right now is not going to help us at all. So what he said was, obviously there's been a contingency, but my men are prepared for this. We're going to continue.
That's amazing.
Just a great leader, the greatest leader I've ever had the honor of working for. And we didn't, I didn't even know they crashed till I saw them inside the house. So it was chaos right off the bat. But again, you got to trust your tactics and don't assume if you're in combat and nothing's going wrong, that's the thing that's wrong. Something's going to, there's a guy named Murphy that shows up. He's going to show up, and Murphy's Law, and stuff will go wrong, but you got to be willing to do it. Like even when we tried to blast the exterior door, we put a 7-foot charge of C6 on a double door. It'll open anything, and we blasted it open. There's a brick wall behind it, and the guy that set the charge goes, "Failed breach, this is bad." And I said, "No, this is good. That's a fake door. Nobody does that. He's in there." So we knew it going up, and then it was just, great guys do great things. Slow is smooth is fast.
More with Robert J. O'Neill, Navy SEAL, and we're talking about this mission, ladies and gentlemen, Operation Neptune Spear. We'll come up right now, or we'll be back, I should say, right after these important announcements here on 77 WABC.
Think about how much time you spend at home. Does your home really make you feel great? If not, it's time to change it. Now picture yourself coming home, seeing beautiful new furniture from Jordan's. Eating out or a vacation, those things just come and go. But walking into your room and loving what you see, you'll enjoy that every day. Right now, come to Jordan's Furniture and get 15% off everything, or get up to 60 months with no interest.
Call 1-866-245-4722 for financing details. Restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval.
The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
46 minutes after the hour, racing to the top of the hour, but still time for you to get in with a question. But we ask kindly that you stay on the subject here because of the rarity of getting our special guest, Robert J. O'Neill, 1-800-848-9222. Okay, we find Osama bin Laden is now wrapped up and pushed off, allegedly off into the ocean. And then this whole story continues. It's just an amazing part of history. We see President Obama doing this big announcement to the nation, telling us that the terrorist has been taken down. And obviously the world is responding to that here in America. Obviously, joyous moment because of such a horrific thing that happened. We all know that part. But what's interesting here, I wanted to get into something else that I found as a tribute, and I know you would agree with me, sir, on this. The 2011 Afghanistan Boeing Chinook shootdown. This is something very sad. On August 6th, in case people don't know, 2011, a U.S. CH-47D Chinook military helicopter operating with the call sign Extortion 17 was shot down while transporting what? A quick reaction force. This happened, of course, in Afghanistan. But a salute to all those that perished. I mean, sadly, sir, were some of those people team members of yours that you can tell us about?
Oh, yeah. I knew about 17 of those guys. Actually, one of the guys that was on the helicopter, I'm Robert J. O'Neill. His name was Robert J. Reeves. And he invited me to his house right before the deployment. So it was after the bin Laden raid for us. I went to his house, and he had a glass of wine, and he said, "Do you want a glass of wine?" And for some weird reason, I just said no. And he was sipping his wine. He looked at me, and he goes, one of these days, a lot of us are going to die in one of those helicopters. And he was on that helicopter. And it just, my one regret in life is I didn't have a glass of wine with him. But it just shows you that, in life, a bullet needs to be right once. And life is fragile, life is precious. And
yes.
It can be everything can be taken away in the blink of an eye. So just take advantage of everything and love everyone you can.
Well, if people don't know, you have the experience. I've sat around people in the firearm industry. I shared this with you offline. I spent many years in the firearm industry. We worked on, and not do a commercial for a specific company, but we built gas piston AR-15s and machine guns for law enforcement and military. But why I mentioned that, the RPG-7 and all iterations of that, it's a horrible shape charge. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, the destructive power of that is just off the charts, right? I mean, that's a sad, and that's what was used to take down, this Boeing Chinook helicopter.
Yeah, I mean they hit one of the rotor blades, so it really didn't matter which kind of RPG you hit it with, because that spun into a spin. And I mean the way the two rotors work is it keeps it stable. You blow one of them off, it shakes violently to the point where that's so powerful and shakes so violently and spins that a lot of guys just died instantly because of the centripetal force. Some guys were thrown out, but yeah, I mean, and the crappy thing about it was a lucky shot, and that's just proof right there that it's. Like I said, it needs to be right one time. That's it.
And I understand the foolish terrorist of the Taliban was bragging about this on communications. And what did we do? We actually found the location of this individual and dropped some heavy munitions from F-16s, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that person is no longer walking around free to do any of the more terrorism things, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, too. And just, it's a crappy part of the world. And, we got to a point in that war where people are just fighting because there's something to do. And then a lot of our guys were fighting because, we haven't been out in a couple of days. We might as well go out now. And that wasn't really my style. Like if someone, if there was a mission I didn't want to go on and we didn't go and someone would yell at me the next day, I was like, well, what was that guy's name? Well, I don't remember. It's like, well, yeah, what are your kids' names? What's important? You're not going to remember this dude. So it was just a point of the war where it's just a Tangi Valley where they were shot down, a very dangerous place. We've been in gunfights there a lot. And it was just a shame to lose. If you would ask me who the best SEALs I knew were before that, every single one of them was on that helicopter.
God bless. And also, let's talk a bit about the service dogs. I mean, this is so amazing, too. I mean, the dog has a very interesting job here, and obviously they lost a service dog on the Boeing Chinook helicopter. And you also had, a dog or maybe two in the involvement in going down into this mission of Operation Neptune Spear. Describe the importance of these well-trained dogs, whether they be Belgian Malinois or German Shepherds. You know the types.
Yeah, we've been using Belgian Malinois. They've turned out to be the best ones in combat because their energy level, their loyalty, and their ability just to turn it on. Bart was the dog that died on extortion, and our dog, we brought one dog named Cairo on the Bin Laden raid. And I highly recommend reading his book called No Ordinary Dog by Will Chesney. He was the handler that brought Cairo on the mission, and then he ended up, Cairo lived with him until Cairo died. But he wrote that book. It's incredible, his story, because Cairo was actually shot in the chest by an AK-47 a couple of years before the Bin Laden raid, and he lived. I don't know anyone who's been shot in the chest with an AK-47 and lived, and Cairo did. And he didn't, and he was amazing. He has 2 silver stars like I do, an incredible dog. And what their job is they go in to shady spots and they use their nose, not night vision. But if a dog is killed in combat, chances are he saved, in our case, at least 5 Navy SEALs. We have a memorial at SEAL Team 6, the wall where you read the names of the guys, but if you turn your back to the wall, up and to the right is the memorial for the dogs that died, because that's where the dog was, up and to your right.
You know, Robert, I don't want to talk about myself much here, seriously, but I spent about 22 years with Sheriff Joe Arpaio in one of their programs out here, actually going out into the field with the deputies and doing what we had to do. And we had so many of these canine handlers, and it's amazing how they bond together. And I'm so amazed at those people, because they're like, what? That's family. You bonded with that dog for life. And it's amazing what they do, and I think people need to know that out there, that it's not just the men and women of the military, it's also the service animals. So
the dog saves lives. I've seen him get in fights with bad guys, and the way the dogs think, the way it's described to me is that their handler is their dad, but everyone in the group is their uncle. So they think of it as a pack mentality, and you have to treat it as such, because they are dogs, but they're well-trained dogs, and they will try to work their way up the lineage, up the chain of command. So it's pretty interesting. And once the vest goes on, once their gear is on, there's no more playtime. There's no more messing around. It's time to work. And no animal, no person, no human being likes to work more than a Belgian Malinois. They did everything except scuba dive with us. We just couldn't figure it out. But we did have their masks named, though. We were calling them doggles.
That's funny. I've seen them jump, and boy, can those dogs jump. They can catch something in the air, and people who own them, know more about it. A quick comment, though, and a memorial to the 13 that perished at the Bagram base when, of course, the administration previous had abandoned everything. I mean, I find that to be the most disgraceful thing, and I don't normally want to talk political, but give me your take, and I'm sure it's going to be rock solid, and you're not going to mince words when you say it. That's a disgrace, what happened over there, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what happens when you make a decision based on a political promise. They wanted to have us out of Afghanistan by September 11th of that year. And it's just a disgrace because we didn't tell anybody, and that's one thing for the media not to know, but think of the dudes from like Denmark who were out in Herat, 5 guys in an outpost, and all of a sudden they wake up to try to grab coffee, and it turns out all of the allies are gone, and they're just out there. Just you losing trust in your allies, which is, I mean, we're not doing too well across the board, but we need to regain it somehow, and the best way is through strength, because when there's a strong country, our country's, when America's strong, the world is strong. We've gotten away from that, and people can go around and say that we've never won a war, like the Taliban beat us and all this stuff. It's just because we get too many politicians and lawyers involved. That's it. If we let Marines do their job, the Marines can win anything on their own. They got pilots, they got infantry, they got tanks. But get us involved, carriers, deterrence, forward defense. If we have a strong military, we have a peaceful world. And trust me, as someone who's been in combat, I might be the most anti-war guy you'll ever meet right now, because I know when it's useful and know when it's not. And I don't think lining people's pockets or making political promises is a means to an end for politics.
Well, in closing, not to brag myself, but we were involved in a radio campaign years ago over Lieutenant Behenna. And you may be familiar, he was charged, of course, in a court of military justice or injustice at the time for, quote, shooting a terrorist when he wasn't supposed to be. That's a bunch of nonsense the way it happened. But we worked with his mother, who was an FBI agent, and we obviously helped get him so that all that bad that was coming on from him, they released him from the military prison where he was held. And that was a great relief for the family. And, of course, for, justice when people like that were being tried after, a terrorist that he shot the terrorist because the terrorist attacking him. And you said what you did to bin Laden with no hesitation. Well, let me ask you this. We got to wrap it up. Give us a little bit of a synopsis of what you're doing and how do people get in touch with you. And I hope this isn't the last time, Robert, that we can talk. I'll ask you to come back and discuss these things as time goes on, too.
That would be great. We definitely got to do this again. The best way to find me is just find my podcast, The Operator. put out, it comes out about midday every Wednesday. I do it once a week and just kind of do it like this right here. I say some current events, some historical stuff, some good stories, and I want to hear back. So if you can find it I'm on a YouTube channel or on any social media or Apple, Spotify, where podcasts are found, or at robertjoneil.com, ONEILL. And the site's going under a little construction right now, but that leads to the apparel company that has the books, and then speaking engagements and events that I'll go to, and my availability and all that stuff, and contact info. So it's a good way to communicate, and I usually answer.
God bless you. And, it's interesting, before we close out here, we have just a couple of more minutes, and I appreciate, again, your time and all the things that you do. And for everybody, whether you're the person that turns the wrench, on a military truck, or whether you go and do the food and service and everything, as they say, and I don't need to remind you, but the listeners out there, we say it very proudly, all gave some in the military and some gave all. And no matter what your level of experience, when you get an honorable discharge from this country, God bless. The veterans should be treated obviously better than what we're doing in the past with illegal immigrants coming into the country. And obviously that's a whole nother political conversation. So people may be surprised, Robert, when normally I talk the subject of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, my background. But I'm also proud, as we talk about on this radio show, and the station itself talks about truth, justice, and the American way. And we'll never stop doing that, and stories of American exceptionalism, just like yourself. Robert J. O'Neill, thank you for being with us here on the Dr. Sky Experience, and God bless you. And hope we'll have you back by your own volition, and we'll look to talk to you soon. I appreciate you.
Well, God bless you, and thank you for having me. And you have my contact info. I'd love to do this. Very cool conversation. I appreciate the platform, and thanks for your time.
My pleasure, sir. Good morning to you. And, folks, as we close, I just reminded, going back quickly in our time machine here, we mentioned, of course, and you've heard there in the news at the top of the hour, that there is, for those of you in the east coast of the United States, from, say, central Canada all the way to the eastern part of Canada, more precisely, a solar eclipse that will take place just at the point of sunrise, which is very interesting. But if you do watch it, obviously not much of an eclipse, but it is an eclipse. In Bangor, Maine, 82.2% of the sun will be covered by the moon. Sunrise there at 6:21. Boston, 6:32 is sunrise. And for those in the New York metro area, we're talking East Coast, of course, 6:45 a.m., where 21% of the sun will be seen, that is, rising like these devil horns, though they're not devil horns, if you have clear skies. And that's something quite fascinating. And we'll be talking next week, some really special guests coming up here on the Dr. Sky Experience. And more importantly than anything, I want to thank Tony and all the folks that are helping make this particular radio show possible the way you want to hear it. And we appreciate their help in navigating through time and space with us here on the Dr. Sky Experience. All we can say is good morning to all you out there listening. We're trying to open up our minds one program at a time so we can learn not only about the great realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, but great stories like you've heard before with Robert J. O'Neill. We'll see you next week, and have a great and safe week. Thank you.